It's been 2 decades since one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history, Hurricane Katrina,
making landfall on the Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm. It caused billions of dollars in damage, and more than 1,000 people lost their lives.
One of the hardest hit states, Louisiana, where storm surge caused the levee system to fail, plunging a majority of New Orleans underwater.
But in the years since, communities have rebounded and tourism is thriving.
The discussion was how fast can we do this? It was never about whether we do it or not.
In the wake of Hurricane Katrina, some of the country's best engineering minds teamed up to help better protect the Crescent City.
It's a whole different world than what it was when Hurricane Katrina hit.
And that includes restoring the state's coastline.
The reporter John Snell takes an in-depth look at how the storm fueled support to rebuild Louisiana's natural defenses.
Airboats cruised down the notorious ship channel that funneled Katrina's surge into the heart of New Orleans and St. Bernard. Sandwiched between the now closed Mississippi River Gulf outlet and Lake Borgne, a broken wetland has been reborn.
This is going to be the biggest project we've ever done.
3,200 acres of new coastal wetlands, the largest marsh creation project in Louisiana history. Planners say it provides a layer of natural protection for the levees rebuilt after Katrina.
And unfortunately, a disaster had to happen to really kind of give us the clarity and motivation to really think big, to be ambitious.
Coastal scientist Alicia Renfro with the National Wildlife Federation sees Katrina as a wake-up call.
So when we talk about the disaster that was Hurricane Katrina, it was a failure of the levee system, but it was also a failure of the natural ecosystem. So much of it had disappeared. We had no longer had a robust system outside of those levees.
Over the last century, geologists tell us about 2,000 square miles of Louisiana disappeared. Oilfield canals drew salt water into the interior marsh and altered natural tidal flows. Levees built for navigation locked the Mississippi River in a straitjacket, depriving the marsh of sediment. The wetlands, disconnected from the river, sank. This NOAA image depicts what the coast would have looked like north of Port Fourchon in 1932 versus an actual satellite image in modern times. Katrina galvanized support for coastal restoration. Simone Malaz heads the group Restore the Mississippi River Delta.
You can't just build a levee over here or just a piece of marsh over here. We have to be thinking about those things together.
Pre-Katrina, and Rita for that matter, this was the kind of project that coastal advocates only dreamed of. Dozens of them have been completed. 5 years after the hurricanes, another disaster would provide the funding. Court settlements from the 2010 BP oil spill set aside $9 billion for Louisiana. When it came time to divide the money among Gulf Coast states, advocates say Louisiana benefited from already having in place the coastal master plan it developed in Katrina's wake.
We had a science-based process, we had a plan, a blueprint for what our coastline should look like and how we want to invest our money.
State coastal officials estimate Louisiana has rebuilt about 60 miles of barrier islands and beaches. That's in addition to large-scale projects like this one in South Plaquemines Parish. The Spanish Pass restoration turned 6 miles of open water into land. Contractors have spent 3 years on the Lake Borgne project, pumping 13 million cubic yards of dredge material, enough to fill the Superdome 3 times.
I've been here from the very beginning, so I've seen from the rawest stage to the most completed stages, and it's very rewarding.
Planners gave special attention to mimicking nature. Natural-looking bayous allow for tidal flow into and out of the new marsh. Rick Owens is with the Louisiana Wildlife Federation.
This system is, and everything that we benefit from it, from shrimp to crabs to the fish we catch, to the alligators to the birds, it all requires that balance. It requires the balance of fresh and salt. It requires the water that moves through here.
The coast today is smaller than before Katrina. Yet advocates say, in some ways, Louisiana is in a better place today than it was 20 years ago.
This is the biggest project that the state will have completed, and it's important because that matches the challenges that we're facing.
Since July of 2025, Louisiana pulled the plug on two of its largest restoration projects that would have used the power of the Mississippi River to build wetlands. Many scientists argue not using the river to build back the coast hinders Louisiana's ability to restore wetlands at the scale needed. But Governor Jeff Landry sided with opponents who feared channeling large amounts of fresh water into certain areas would devastate fisheries, and the cost of the projects ballooned to several $billion. Another hurdle: in 2031, money from the BP oil spill runs out. In May of 2025, Congress gave the state a larger share of offshore oil revenue, $500 million over 10 years. But Louisiana has yet to secure a permanent source of funding to keep projects going at the same pace as the last decade.